Welcome to Sera, a podcast hosted by me, Sera and Lalone. Join me as I go straight to the sources of my curiosity. Each episode, I get to discover or rediscover everyday educators as we discuss their passions and their projects. Listen in on our conversation and let our words spark imagination and inspiration. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Sera. Today's episode is featuring another outstanding educator from Ottawa, Ontario. Her name is Rebecca Clark, and she was actually recently featured on the Ed podcast with Shane Lawrence all the way out in Alberta. So you should definitely go and check that out. She was episode 120, and the episode was called A New World. So definitely something to go and check out on Apple Podcasts, even on Google Podcasts, Spotify. She is already a pro at this podcasting stuff, super renowned. And it's funny because Rebecca and I have tons of stuff in common. While listening to her podcast with Shane, I realized that we both teach in the same kind of context with students who are working towards certificates. So I'm really pumped to have her on. I think we're going to be bouncing lots of ideas off of each other today. And so without further ado, Rebecca, I will get you to kind of give us a little explanation of what you do in EDU.
Okay, great. Thanks for having me. I'm definitely not a podcasting pro, even though that's what you said. That's a lie. So I teach a general learning program. A general learning program is for students with developmental disabilities. I teach it's called the E group in my school. So they're the seniors, which means that they are graduating in the next year or two. So the whole goal of my program is to set them up to transition to life beyond high school. So we do anything that you could imagine that falls in that purview.
Is this always what you wanted to do?
I didn't always know that I wanted to be a teacher. In fact, I had no idea what I wanted to do. But looking back on my life, I should have known that I wanted to be a teacher. All of my experiences are related to children and youth. And I actually volunteered in a GLP classroom before I went to teachers college. And that's when I started figuring out, oh, this is what I want to do and this is where I want to be.
Okay, so then where did you go to teachers college? Ottawa?
I went to University of Toronto, Boise.
Nice. Are you from Southern Ontario or what made you get to Ottawa?
That's a loaded question. You didn't know it, but I was born in Ottawa, and then my family moved to Penticton, Calgary, North Vancouver, and London, Ontario. And then I went to high school in Brazil and London and university in Ottawa and Turkey. And then I just decided that Toronto was a good place for teachers college. I'd heard lots of interesting things about it, and I have family there, so I ended up there.
Holy moly. Okay.
I've just moved a couple times.
Just a few. Talking to the girl who hasn't I still live in the same place that I was born and raised, and the furthest I've been was I did my bachelor's degree in Sudbury, Ontario, which I now call my second home, and I did my faculty of education 2 years ago in Ottawa. So I was just wondering if that was the same for you. So that's a lot of fun. Do you use your um, I don't even know how to say this. Do you use your experience of being like flexible and adaptable in your classroom? Because that's obviously something you must have had to have built growing up, right?
Oh, yes, every day. I think probably the traits that make me well suited to this classroom are that I'm flexible and adaptable and positive, even when things are going really, really, really off the rails.
Hmm. It's funny. I'm just thinking. I also teach students who are working towards a certificate. We don't have necessarily a program for it. They just have special classes, and I get to teach them. I see them all day except for one class, and Yeah, I can definitely attest to things not always going as planned. So
Mm. But that's
when
when you have the biggest learning. Like today, one of my students walked past another student and almost knocked her glasses off, and she lost it on her and like used some pretty inappropriate language. So we took a break and we had, a 10-minute conversation as a class as to when that sort of language is appropriate, when it's not, what people think of you when you speak like that out in the community, and that kind of thing. And that's all real life because as adults, sometimes things come out of our mouth that we regret, and it's okay to talk about it. So I think that's kind of when magic happens in the classroom.
Amen. I think that we don't even take enough time to do that with students who are in different classes who aren't in these necessarily like JLP programs, right? Because those words also come out of their mouths, right?
That's very true. I think
Yeah.
it's nice that we have that flexibility to talk about those things.
Absolutely, and again, I know you talked about it a lot in Shane's podcast, but just like those life skills to making sure that they are des citoyens du monde. Sorry for the French, but
Mhm.
you know, able to
Mhm.
go and like contribute and be just like a respectable human being in society. Like that's my goal,
Yes, that is
basically.
100% my goal as well.
I know. So I'm just gonna like go back to my initial question. When you went to teachers college, were you like setting yourself up to teach in this program already, or did you teach in other schools and other programs before this?
I was really hoping to teach in this kind of program or kind of like an inner city vibe school. That's where I did my
Mm.
practicums was inner city Toronto, and I really love working with I guess what we would call challenging students, whether that's on the special education spectrum or just on the I don't know, new Canadians, not that they're necessarily challenging, they just have a lot of challenges ahead of them.
Ah.
I've always sort of liked that. I started off in Ottawa not in special education but in English language development with Syrian refugees. And that was really, really, really fun. And then I moved to what we would call like a typical high school and taught just some English courses. But I was sort of always working my way back into special education.
I think that's outstanding. I am qualified to teach English and like I would love to teach English, but right now, the context that I'm in and the school that I'm in and the number of students and my board, like I'm with these students and I actually had them last year as well. So we've gotten to know each other really well. And I can't say that I ever thought that like this whole special education thing was for me, but my heart, like my students have my heart. They
Hmm.
they they could walk around they walk around with it basically every day, and they know that I just, like, love them so much, and one thing that kind of just, like, popped up in my mind is I'm wondering what is it about these students, or what is it about teaching new Canadians that you love that makes you, like, go to school every day?
I really love my students and working with new Canadians and sort of different groups of students where you really get to develop that connection and that relationship. I think sometimes when you're like a typical high school teacher and you teach 3 periods a day, and you see the students for 75 minutes at once, you don't get to develop connections that are as deep. So I like special education, I like ELD, and I like summer school all because you have that same like all day, every day with the same students, and those connections means much more. And you get to see their growth and their development and their mistakes to like a
Mhm.
whole new level. And I think that's really, really fabulous.
Yeah, it's so cool, and again, I never thought that I would be so attached, but do you think that we get as attached as they do?
Oh, definitely. I definitely cried at the end of last year because I was switching, still in the same program, but switching grades, moving from the younger one to the older ones because I wanted to sort of take on this new project. But I was definitely sad to be moving on from some of my students. But lots of them are going to come back to me in a couple years. So that's exciting.
Patience is a virtue. I love it.
Hmm.
You
I'm
sound like
waiting.
someone who loves a good challenge just by, like, the way that you're explaining, what you do every day. So, I'm also wondering, like, why did you want to transition into teaching the senior students? What kind of challenges were you looking for, and what kind of challenges are you facing?
Yeah, I guess why would I ever do something the easy way, like teach the same thing the second year in a row? I've never done that, but now I'm hoping to because I really love what I'm doing. I just saw that in our seniors, there was a lot of disengagement, that they were in school for 6 or 7 years and they, weren't really making it through the sixth or seventh year. They were getting tired of doing the same thing over and over and over again. And that's no fault of the teachers that were in here. It was just the way that the schedule was set up. They didn't have one teacher all day every day last year. They had 4 or 5 different teachers, and that doesn't give you the consistency and the ability to do all the things that I'm doing. So I asked and advocated, and the other teachers that were in here agreed that we should make that switch. And so everyone agreed, and we made that switch so that I could try and implement programming that would create a higher level engagement and interest in staying in school, and then also maybe doing new skills that aren't the ones that they would have done in the younger grades. They've kind of mastered those, so let's do some new things.
So, what are the biggest challenges in your decision that, like, up to I know we're only November there, but I'm sure that it's not always been easy?
No, definitely not. It's been a big change for a lot of the students to go from like having designated subjects, like this time is math, this time is, well, English, like literacy and numeracy, this time is based for, social skills, this time is for personal life skills, this time is for the world of work, this time is for the world around us, because that's what their years have been like up until now. And
Mm.
I'm not doing that. We have like a day of the week that's dedicated to different activities, and it repeats every week, but it's not the same as having like a day one, day two schedule that they're used to. So that's definitely been a challenge. Also, I mean, you work in the school board, there's not always a lot of money, and a lot of the things that we do cost money. So that's been another challenge that we've been working up against. Those are probably the two biggest ones.
Okay. Oh, it sounds like your students also need to be flexible and adaptable, which is not always the case, right?
No, but they're getting there. I think the ones that were having the hardest time transitioning have now kind of hit the ground running, and they're in a place where they feel more comfortable, and we've done a lot of things to get them more comfortable. We have a calendar that's up every month at the beginning of every week. We go over the week and the students that were struggling the most. I have an Algonquin student that's working with me, like a college student who's studying to be a child and youth worker, so to work in a classroom as an educational assistant. And she sat down and made day planners for all the ones that were struggling and put in,
Wow.
yeah, it was
Wow.
so helpful.
Oh
And
my goodness.
yeah,
What's
and
her
put
name?
in
What's their name? Does she wanna, like, come to Alexandria and work sometimes too? Holy
no,
moly.
no, you can't have her. So she set up the next 2 months for them so that they have it in their day planner and actually feel that there is that consistency, even though it's different from last year.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm
incredible.
lucky. Yeah, I have really good support in here.
Yeah, so all of this because you wanted to, up the engagement and up the the I don't wanna say the why, but just, like, their their, like, motivation and engagement to, like, continue their program all the way to the end, right?
I really wanted to do that, and I recently finished my special education specialist. And in like the last section of it, one of the things that we read was a paper that said that students with or adults with developmental disability, their well-being and their weight and other measures of health are far lower than the general population. And so that plus what I was seeing in our school were sort of like, okay, this is not okay with me. I want to see
Right.
if me and my class can do something about this together.
Yeah. I can hear your passion, which is, like, one of the reasons why I do a podcast because I just love talking with passionate educators, and I think one of the main reasons too why I wanted to have you on and wanted to chat with you is because evidently if listeners haven't realized it yet, like, you're not the average, you're not the average educator teaching in French, we call it déranger d'oignon and, giving out the traditional tests with the PowerPoint and so on and so forth. That being said, I went through your Twitter from today all the way down to the 1st of November, and I just, like, jotted down a whole bunch of really different cool things that you've been doing with your classroom so that our listeners would have a way better idea of basically what you do, and just saying, I'd love to be a student in your class.
That's so kind. Thank you.
Um, so recently you did some real tasks with real money and learning numeracy. You went to a craft show and did a big like social entrepreneurship. You did prototypes for all the stuff that you were selling. You brought your students to a history museum, volunteered at the food bank. I love the painting with circuits. It was epic. You were even gardening, visiting a coffee shop, touring there, and doing accessible baseball. And that's just like since October 30th.
We definitely have a lot of fun, and I think lots of learning happens when the fun is going on. And I know that probably sounds like, okay, well, what are the goals of this teacher? What are all these, how are all these random things connected? And we do connect them in a way. We have a different day of the week that's dedicated to a different activity. So Monday is for like wellness and fitness. Tuesday is for running our business. So that was the craft fair and the prototypes. That's kind of to try and balance out that issue of funding, is that we're trying to self-fund the best that we can. And we've gotten some awesome support from the board so that we can make that happen. Wednesdays is dedicated to connecting with our community. So that was the volunteering. Thursdays is dedicated to planning for the future. So that might be working with money, or tomorrow we're going to IKEA so they can build what they would put in their first ever apartments to see how much it would actually cost to move out from home. And then Fridays is usually fun, but usually fun centered around like cooking and then eating a meal together.
Rebecca, I want to cry. Honestly, honestly, how many years have you been teaching?
This is my fifth year.
Wow. Okay. I essentially want to be you. I want to learn everything. I want to move my school to Ottawa so that we have more like resources because I teach in a rural school in the village of Alexandria and we can't go far, let's just say. But that being said, what we do have in our community is like really outstanding, and there's lots of businesses who like to collaborate with us. So I think one takeaway from this podcast is like collaborating with people in your community. Do you agree?
Community is such a big resource for us. I spent probably all of June, July, and August and September bothering everybody that I could possibly think of. And I started off getting a lot of no's, like, oh, no, thanks. We never worked with students before. Oh, I don't know about that. Oh, maybe. And then somewhere around like mid August, I hit a stride and everyone started saying yes. And I think our calendar is like booked until almost February at this point.
Okay, so tell me like more uh like more concrete, what does that actually look like? How did you decide where you wanted to go? How did you contact? How do they say yes? How do you bring your students there? Like, I have a lot of questions.
Well, I basically contacted everybody that I could possibly think of that has some sort of connection with us. The first thing that I thought of was getting us a gym membership, and that turned out to be really, really, really hard because of liability forms and, gyms are small or busy or whatever. So what we have based our sort of fitness model around instead is I've connected with 10 different community partners. So like a CrossFit gym, a yoga studio, a circuit training studio, a couple personal trainers, spin instructors, karate instructors, hip hop instructors, and basically we go on a tour of their studio so that the students can see what it would be really like to work out there. And then the next 3 weeks in a row, they come to us and run a workout in our school, in our space, to kind of get past all those things that make it tricky to do an outside workout. And then
Mhm.
and then we review together as a class what we liked about it, who would be good for, who it wouldn't be good for. And our hope is at the end of the year to put that along with our other community partners all together in some sort of transitions fair so we can share it with other people in our circuits like situations so that they can use all the information we've gathered this year, because it's kind of like one big experiment.
Okay. So, did you make a list of a whole bunch of different people in the community and then you contacted them, and how do you schedule this? How do you bring your students to go to the coffee shop or to go to IKEA or to
Mm-hmm.
go to the
Mm-hmm.
different places?
Well, we're really lucky. We have OC Transpo training passes. So we basically have like a stack of bus passes that the school has access to. Also, my students are mostly all bus trained, which means they all take the buses independently because they go to work in the afternoon. So pretty much all of them have their own bus pass. Some of them live rurally and are bused into school and then borrow a bus pass and go to work. So those folks, I just borrow a bus pass from the school for. And so we bus everywhere. Everywhere is public transit. So we do have to plan places that we can get to. So when I'm looking for places, I'm usually looking in Google Maps, what is within like an hour radius of us
Right.
via public transit, and hopefully one bus, maybe two at the most. Yeah, I didn't really make a list. I just sort of started
Just started. Do you
sending
find
emails.
yeah, like, you're super active on Twitter also, and you post and you tag and you tweet and you reply. Do you find other, like, businesses or other people inviting you to different places or being like, "Hey, we'd love to have you guys," or does do you find value in publishing these tweets?
Yes. Yes,
Tell
sorry,
me
I didn't
more
mean
about
to
that.
interrupt you there. Yeah, Twitter's been really, really, really helpful, even just with connecting me with ideas, but it's connected us with another class that we work with once every 2 weeks at another high school in Ottawa. So we go visit them. We take the bus to them once every 2 weeks, and I think we've started. Well, I know we've started, but it didn't work. We're starting another little social enterprise with them where we grow microgreens and we're going to sell them to the school so that we can fund our program and that school's breakfast program. But we planted the microgreens last week or 2 weeks ago and they failed. So we're going to try again this week. So that
Can you
was a
explain what
Twitter.
microgreen is?
They're like little baby greens. I don't know. The students were not super into eating them, but I love them. We made them like taste test. They're like little baby They look like little baby leaves, like little four-leaf clovers, but they're like packed with 8 times the nutrition or something that you would find in a broccoli or an arugula. And you can just sprinkle them on top of your salad or like they're like almost like sprouts. Put them in a sandwich, put them
Okay.
on top of everything. And they look pretty and I think they taste good.
I love it. At least I have a visual now because when I was, like, scrolling through your Twitter, like, I seen that you guys were planting stuff, but I didn't necessarily understand what. So that was a project that stemmed from a connection?
That a connection that
Amazing.
I fostered through Twitter. And there's been a couple others like that. Usually the ideas that I get from Twitter are like, oh, you should try emailing this person or contact this person or call this person. And that's usually when it pans out from there.
Mhm. Wow, okay. Um, Before we go, I know that you were recently hanging out with Amber Gross
Hmm.
at the EdTech Summit that you guys had in your board, which I just, like, would have died to be there because I'm just a fangirl of, like, Giffen and Kim Polishuk and, all of those really wonderful people. So just wondering what were your takeaways of your EdTech Summit and your board?
Yeah, that was really awesome. I actually met Amber through Twitter too, and we've met up a couple times. But yeah, the EdTech conference was amazing. The coolest thing that I learned was from Kim, and it was how to use Google Forms for assessment. And so I've been using it like mad for the past couple days. Basically, I have a Google form on my homepage of my phone, and it has a drop down menu for all my students' names. It has those like learning skills in checkboxes,
Mhm.
and then it has a spot for observations. The student name and the observations are mandatory, but the learning skills aren't. And so, as we're working in the classroom, I can check off someone's name and I can say right in front of them, like, oh, so and so did a really awesome job with their math question. They struggled through the challenges and they successfully came to an answer, or they struggled to the challenges, didn't come to an answer the first time, but they tried again and again. And then I can submit it and they can see me talking about the assessment, posting it, sending it through, and then it all gets saved in one giant Google sheet that you can
Oh,
sort by student name, which is amazing. So I can type in, student X and see everything that I've submitted about them throughout the last couple months. And, if I have a parent meeting or I'm helping with any sort of like future planning or I'm writing report cards, I have it all there in a or Google sheet.
one-stop shop. I find, like, I'm in my second year of teaching, and I'm still trying to figure out those little I don't know, those little tools that just make your life so much simpler.
Yeah, that
So
one's.
you might, have to share more deeply all of
Mhm.
that.
I can share that one, and it's really nice. And I put it on the home screen of my Algonquin student who's supporting us, and my educational assistant who also works with us. Not mine, sorry, I shouldn't say that. The educational assistant and the Algonquin student that work with us, and so they can both do it too. And it just goes right to my Google Sheets. So nothing is saved on the phone. There's no information there. It's just if like we're walking around supporting students and we notice something, we can take the note and then it all comes to me and I can put it all together.
Wow.
Yeah,
Life is
it's
good.
life is really good. I really, really, really love what I get to do.
Yeah. We are super lucky, and I'm I'm listening to you talk, and like in the back of my mind I'm just working out how like you and I can connect. I'm like, can I bring my students to Ottawa? Can you guys come down to Alexandria for the day? Like I'd love to just have my students meet yours and they can all be friends.
I would love to do that too. I met like a teacher who teaches grade sevens at this tech conference, and she's like, "Can you bring your students to my class and can you tell them about the business that you're running as a class? Like, do little stations, do a little presentation, explain to them what you're doing." And I was like, "Yes," and we have booked a date. So all those connections I love. So if we can earn enough money in our business to come to you, we can get a bus and we can come to you.
I don't think your students' top choice once they have money to spend will be to come to Alexandria, Ontario. So
Well, they don't have to know. No,
that's
that's
fair.
not true. I let them make lots and lots and lots of as many choices as humanly possible in the classroom. But
Of
I'm
course.
sure we could convince them that it's a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That's so awesome. I want to end with a quick game. I've been trying to add little games into my podcast on season 3, and the game I'm going to end with is called Alliteration Station. I know that you're an English teacher and you know what an alliteration is, so I don't need to explain that part, but I will explain the game. I
Okay.
have 3 alliterations, and they're all like I have 3 alliterations with 3 words in them. So, first one is innovate, inspire, idea. The second one is vision, values, voice. And the third one is win, wonder, and worry. Don't worry, I'll say them again. You're going to get to choose one of those alliterations, and you can give me like an anecdote for each word, or you can give me like a fun fact for each word, or you can just like come up with anything you'd like, however you
Okay.
perceive each of the words in the alliteration. So you can either go with I, it was innovate, inspire, idea. You can go with V, vision, values, voice, or you can go with W, win, wonder, or worry. So what alliteration would you like?
Okay, I'm definitely not going with W. I'm just deciding between the other two. Can you say them one more time? I know that doesn't make for very good podcasting, but
That's okay. So innovate, inspire, idea, or vision, values, and voice.
okay, let's go with V, vision, values,
Ooh,
and voice. Okay.
okay.
Okay. So I'm going to relate it to my classroom. I hope that's okay.
Excellent. Yeah, yeah,
I mean, I imagine that's probably the point.
yeah.
So vision, I definitely had a clear vision coming into this year that I wanted to take advantage of the community around us and pack our classroom full of experiential, hands-on learning. And I think we're doing a pretty decent job. I'm definitely learning, okay, this is valuable, this isn't, this supports students, this doesn't. But I think that'll change every single year that I have new students transitioning in and out of my class. So I had a vision and I think it's going well. You know, I will always be reflecting on it, but I think we're getting somewhere with it and the students are enjoying it and we're accomplishing things. And I hope we keep moving along that track. Voice was the next one, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, so voice. I definitely think student voice is really, really, really important. I'm doing like a mini self advocacy unit with my 2 younger students just to teach the 2 younger classes. I teach younger classes in the afternoon when my students go off to work, just to get them
Mhm.
comfortable with those words. And then in my older class, the one I teach in the morning, for the whole morning, I try as much as possible to give them student voice and say in what we do. So when we started planning all the activities that we're going to do during the year, I asked them, we kind of sat down in a big circle and I asked them, if you got kicked out of your house tomorrow, what would be the one thing you really need to know? And they're like, we're not going to get kicked out. I'm like, I know. I just, use it as a jumping off point. What's the thing you really need to know? So I made a list of those things they all said they really, really, really wanted to know. And that's what we're basing our year around as much as I can find experts to come help us, and trips and hands-on things that will support that. That's what the year is based around. When it comes to the fitness stuff, they made a list of all the fitness activities they want to do, and we're trying to do as many of those as possible. When it comes to our business, we had a guest come in, walk us through products, business names, business ideas, all those kinds of things, and as they picked all of it. We're just sort of here to support. So as much as possible, student voice, I think, needs to be a huge part of my classroom, because I'm trying to send my students off into the world as adults.
Mhm.
So they need to have
Absolutely.
their own say as much as possible. And what was the third word?
Value or values, like your values, their values, important values in
Mhm.
your classroom.
Yes, values. Yeah, I think my most important value is positivity, and I try as much as possible to instill that in my students every day. Like, there's no need to be negative with each other. The world has enough of that going on. Let's just be positive people as much as possible. And I try and model that they think I'm ridiculously embarrassing all the time, but by being positive and happy. And I mean, they also think I have a coffee problem, but that's probably true. And that helps keep me positive. So I think that's the most important value in my room.
Oh my gosh, Rebecca, I think we're essentially the same person because if you ask my students, they would say the exact same thing. The positivity, like my students are saying to me this morning that like Manamananon is always so happy all the time, even in the morning, and that I drink too much coffee. So, that being said, I want the name of this podcast episode to be like a positivity podcast or positivity and coffee edu, or I'm not sure. I haven't got all that figured out yet, but that definitely is what connects us, or passion for positivity and coffee. I don't know.
hmm
Let me,
Coffee is what fuels our classroom. We sell coffee to the
Mm,
staff in the morning. So it's
wow.
half of our money. My students get to school. Each of them has a day where they get to school 45 minutes early to deliver coffee to all the staff.
Oh,
So we are fueled by coffee.
that just like is the highlight of this episode, as if
Mhm.
there's so many amazing things about what you just said. I feel like that should be something in every school. Like that should just be your business. Students could go to every school and like have their little carts and oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, we have a
I'm
little
getting
cart. We push it
exponential.
around. We even brew dark roast and medium roast. Sometimes we have
Wow.
snacks.
There's
Coffee
choice.
is key.
Wow, amazing. Well, on that note, I just want to thank you for taking the time to speak with me. I know that as educators, our time and our energy are our most valuable resources. It's not always easy or evident or easy to get hooked up on a podcast. So I just want to say thank you so much. And I want to finish by saying that in this big, beautiful world of education, we give what we can, we do what we can, and for the rest, Que Sera Sera. Que Sera Sera is a proud member of the Voice Ed Radio Network. Original music, editing, and production of this podcast is done by the talented Mathieu Leroux. Find my podcast on all podcast platforms, including SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and now newly on YouTube. Talk to you soon.